It is time now for Money Power Politics. And the reason I'm in D.C. today, the Federal Reserve delivered its first interest rate cut of the year. The central bank only lowered rates by a quarter point this time, but officials also signaled 2 more cuts are coming this year. That might sound like good news, but all of this hints at something that until now still seemed avoidable, an economic slowdown. And it comes as Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent calls for an independent review of the entire Federal Reserve, including monetary policy. I asked Fed Chair Jay Powell about that earlier today, and here's what he had to say. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said that the Federal Reserve suffers from mission creep and institutional bloat. He's now calling for an independent review. Would you support an independent review, or are you open to any sort of reform in any areas of the Fed?
Of course, I'm not going to comment on anything the Secretary says or really any other officer says. I think we're certainly open to constructive criticism and ways to do our jobs better.
But not an independent review?
We're certainly open to, to always trying to do better.
He chooses his words wisely. The nightcap is still with us. Daniel, your biggest takeaway from the meeting and Chairman Powell's comments?
A couple of things. First and foremost, a White House employee, a current White House employee, is now on the Fed Board of Governors.
Correct.
Leave of absence, right? They said he took away the badge. It's like saying you don't have access to your parents' house anymore because you don't have the keys, right? It's just crazy that is happening. So this notion of any shred of Fed independence left is gone. 1. 2, the PCE, right, one of the cost of living numbers, was 2.6% last month. That's well above the 2% that is supposed to be the gauge to help figure out whether you lower interest rates. The next number's coming out on the 26th. That's going to be a very interesting meter to see where we actually are, right? CPI was above expectations as well. So you can't help but just look at this and say all of this pressure, both internally and externally from the Fed chair, is causing decisions that could ultimately hurt our economy, raise our prices, and have the very kind of control that Donald Trump has wanted all along. Okay, but when you look at the numbers, right, what do they point to? That inflation could be going up while the job picture going down. That is a snapshot of stagflation. It's a nightmare. And it does not matter how anyone spins the economy. People know how much their lives cost. And the big gorilla in the room right now is that it's Trump's tariff policy that is causing all of this confusion. And immigration. But the Fed chair can't say that. He's not going to say that outwardly because he doesn't want to feel the wrath of the president. But that is causing so much of this uncertainty in the market. Without that element of unpredictability, there'd be a lot more of an ability to address the economy in a more thoughtful way. What does it say about the new Fed governor, Stephen Miron, not formally just taking a break from the White House to become a Fed governor? First thing he does, first day, he asks for a 50 basis point or a half a point cut versus a quarter point, which everyone else did.
I think that was very predictable. That was the least surprising thing, and a very surprising day, was that the president's man on the Fed was going to ask for that. That's been their position. I think if Trump had his way, would he drop the rate to 0 right now and wait for the growth to come immediately without changing tariff? He would. The control he wants over the economy is one that other countries with less stable economies and less stable central banks have, and he wants it. So very clear where he wants this to go. His only setback has been this Lisa Cook situation, which I think has gotten a little bit murkier for the White House and their demand in the last few days. But what he wants is all levers turned in one direction, growing the economy without any change in his policy. And he knows, as you were saying, he has power over the barrel. Powell's not going to comment on the tariffs. He's not going to comment on the effects of mass deportation, et cetera. He's going to work within the rules, and Trump's going to work without them. But he's also not going anywhere. Your take?
I'm going to go with this from 5,000 feet away.
Please.
I spent my weekend in rural outside of Youngstown, Ohio. I was at a wedding for one of my former students. These are the kind of people who have chickens in their yards, not because they're virtue signaling, but because they actually farm, okay? It's the kind of place where all of these questions manifest themselves not just in concerns about tariffs, not just in concerns about immigration, but whether or not the $10.99 breakfast skillet is going to go up to $12 because the tariffs make things more expensive. People in red parts of the country, and that is the surrounding area of Youngstown, They don't like this uncertainty. They don't like the tariffs. They find them confusing. And what they were hoping for...
People in the blue parts of the country don't like the tariffs.
They don't like it either.
Yes.
But these are the people who actually voted for this. And what always sort of concerns me when we have these sort of larger economic discussions is that people on Main Street, all they're hearing is the teacher from Peanuts. Wah, 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 wah. What they're looking at is, it's been 8 months and my eggs are still expensive. It's been 8 months and a hospital in downtown Youngstown closed because they can't get enough Medicaid money and people have fewer places they can actually go to get help. This economy is not improving. And no matter how many ways you try and spin the numbers, no matter what this administration says, people are feeling it. They're going to be unhappy. Now, whether that manifests in different votes next year or how it manifests in New Jersey or Virginia this fall, I don't know. But people in flyover country are very unhappy, and they're feeling a pinch that they thought was going to be solved by now.
Well, it's really two economies, right? Because what we're seeing with Trump policies are the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And as much as people across the board are saying, yes, lower rates, it makes borrowing costs cheaper, it's also really difficult for savers, right? So if you are a person if you're a senior citizen, now the only place you can invest your money is the stock market. It's the only place you can make any money. It's putting our savers in a risky position.
And on top of the prices that you just outlined, we haven't even seen the worst of it because the effects of the BBB, Big Beautiful Bill, Big Ugly Bill, are going to start to kick in. Starting on November 1st, for example, in Michigan, if you're a family of four making less than $124,000, you're going to see your ACA premiums go up $5,500 a year. If you're a couple, a 60-year-old couple making $82,000, you're going to see it go up $13,000 a year. These are hurts for families and people at a time in which they are already feeling the pain. That is the concern.
Subsidies that you get from the federal government in order to do environmental assessments as a farmer in Georgia, those are going to start disappearing because of this same bill. This is going to hit our economy in so many different terrible ways that I don't think this administration realizes how much it's going to hurt.
Okay, but let me just turn one thing, because Trump has his second state visit in Great Britain, you know, all the pomp, all the circumstance, rolling out every red carpet, every horse, every carriage for Donald Trump. Is there an argument there that they are doing this because they want and need his help? And in some ways, look, the president now has AI companies investing in Great Britain because they're happy to do whatever Donald Trump wants, because Donald Trump is giving the AI universe carte blanche when it comes to no regulation. So they're happy to dip a little money over there in Great Britain. But the treatment Donald Trump is getting, how right now you've got the royal family thanking President Trump, honoring that special relationship. Are they going to be able to make an argument that maybe Trump's art of the deal is working in some cases?
When it comes to the UK, we're talking about the other trading partners, the ones affecting these people making these purchases, people buying cars. That's not where we're buying this stuff from. That's not where the price increases are coming from. And to the point you're making about the politics too, Republicans don't even call it the one big beautiful bill anymore. I was in disbelief that they would stop doing this, but it is now the working families tax cut, because they realize that the domestic policies that they put into place that they've all signed off on, people are not sold on them, so they are going abroad and saying there are wins, he's going to come back. He's very good at talking about that. He's very good at coming up with a number, sometimes on the fly, for how much money is going to flow back in the country. But every week, people do not see that compound in what they're paying or what they're paying, what they're investing. They hear that money is coming from overseas. I think week to week, it's a pretty good distraction from the domestic policy that's not going the way that he said it would.